Hello, I'd like to offer feedback now for the descriptive essay writing sample. The first thing I'd like to say is great job on prepositional phrases in the introduction. I think this setup is really good. The way these prepositional phrases flow from one to the next is just a really good piece of writing. And last late September, when brisk fall days started in Michigan. It's just a great setup for this essay. Let's look at a few things to work on now. You refer to, in terms of husband, he has been worked very hard. In terms of husband. So what will typically be said in a context like this is if you're talking about your husband, you would say my husband. So in terms of my husband. So if you put the before husband, in terms of the husband, it sounds like it's not your husband. Or in terms of a husband, it could be any husband. But since you're talking about your husband, you would want to write in terms of my husband. Now let's also look at the next part, has been worked very hard. In the context of this paragraph, in terms of my husband, he has been worked very hard. Since you're talking with us about this context about moving to Michigan and the time that you've spent there kind of getting settled in, and then you tell us that he has been worked very hard in his first semester as a professor. I think a better fit is he has been working very hard in his first semester as a professor. So he has been working throughout. So he hasn't been worked, he has been working very hard in his first semester as a professor. Let's take a look now at after 7 hours long flight. After 7 hours long flight, I could see a lot of buildings. So let's take long and move it before 7 hours. And let's put the article a before long. So after a long 7 hours flight. So after a long 7-hour flight. So we can get rid of the S after hours, at the end of hours. So instead of after 7 hours long flight, we can write after a long 7-hour flight, I could see a lot of buildings. I love this inclusion here of the Hollywood sign. So instead of I found Hollywood sign on the mountain, you would want to write I found the Hollywood sign on the mountain. So a simple article before Hollywood sign. Let's go to the next page for harmonized. I love this descriptive writing here. With red, purple, blue, and pink were harmonized. So they looked nice, but the most beautiful thing was definitely the sunset with red, purple, blue, and pink were harmonized. So since you're talking about these colors and you're describing these colors, we're not going to say that they were harmonized. We're just going to simply say harmonized. Definitely the sunset with red, purple, blue, and pink harmonized. If I wanted to be even more descriptive, I might say with red, purple, blue, and pink harmonized together, something like that. But the word that's before harmonized is not necessary in this case. Definitely the sunset with red, purple, blue, and pink harmonized. We're going to add an article before a here. I love this part here. He did a good job. So instead of he did good job, he did a good job. We're going to add a comma before so. He did a good job, comma, so. And was here. He did a good job, so I was proud of him. He did good job, so I proud of him. He did a good job, so I was proud of him. And let's take a look at this last little bit right here. As my husband's success made me never felt guilty my pleasure. And my husband's success made me never felt guilty my pleasure. So we're going to change the never to not. We're going to change the felt to feel. We're going to keep your guilty, but then we're going to add a preposition here, for. Not feel guilty for, instead of never felt guilty my. And my husband's success made me not feel guilty for my pleasure. So it's changing that negative, changing the tense, felt to feel, and then adding the preposition. Overall, I think this essay is really well written. I love how descriptive it is with the vocabulary and with the analysis of the trip. Talking about feeling nervous. I put a little mark by that. We corrected this, but I love how you describing, the length of the flight, what you saw. I love that you included the Hollywood sign. You talked in great detail, great description of Koreatown. I thought that was really well written. You talked about the weather. So this overall is a really great description of a trip to Los Angeles. I could really get a sense of what you did, how you felt there, and your experience in general. So well written on this essay. Good job.